Hey everyone! Welcome back to BrainBuzz, the most fun channel on the internet. We have a challenge for you: guess the country by its flag and also know the country is famous for. Subscribe and ring the bell icon, so let's jump in. Afghanistan is famous for resilience. Albania is famous for heritage. Algeria is famous for Sahara Desert. Andorra is famous for mountains. Angola is famous for natural resources. Argentina is famous for tango. Armenia is famous for ancient history. Australia is famous for wildlife. Austria is famous for classical music. Azerbaijan is famous for energy. Bahamas is famous for beaches. Bahrain is famous for finance. Bangladesh is famous for textiles. Barbados is famous for tourism. Belarus is famous for architecture. Belgium is famous for chocolate. Belize is famous for coral reefs. Benin is famous for history. Bhutan is famous for happiness. Bolivia is famous for high altitude. Botswana is famous for safaris. Brazil is famous for carnival. Brunei is famous for oil wealth. Bulgaria is famous for rose oil. Burkina Faso is famous for culture. Burundi is famous for drums. Cambodia is famous for Angkor Wat. Cameroon is famous for diversity. Canada is famous for nature. Chad is famous for desert. Chile is famous for geography. China is famous for manufacturing. Colombia is famous for coffee. Comoros is famous for islands. Costa Rica is famous for ecotourism. Croatia is famous for coastline. Cuba is famous for music. Cyprus is famous for history. Czech Republic is famous for castles. Denmark is famous for design. Djibouti is famous for strategic location. Dominica is famous for rainforests. Dominican Republic is famous for beaches. Ecuador is famous for Galapagos. Egypt is famous for pyramids. El Salvador is famous for volcanoes. Estonia is famous for digital innovation. Ethiopia is famous for coffee origins. Fiji is famous for islands. Finland is famous for education. France is famous for fashion. Gabon is famous for rainforests. Gambia is famous for river. Georgia is famous for wine. Germany is famous for engineering. Ghana is famous for gold. Greece is famous for ancient civilization. Guatemala is famous for Mayan culture. Guinea is famous for minerals. Guyana is famous for waterfalls. Haiti is famous for culture. Honduras is famous for ruins. Hungary is famous for thermal baths. Iceland is famous for volcanoes. India is famous for diversity. Indonesia is famous for islands. Iran is famous for Persian history. Iraq is famous for ancient Mesopotamia. Ireland is famous for literature. Israel is famous for innovation. Italy is famous for art. Japan is famous for technology. Jordan is famous for Petra. Kazakhstan is famous for steppes. Kenya is famous for wildlife. Kuwait is famous for oil. Kyrgyzstan is famous for mountains. Laos is famous for rivers. Latvia is famous for architecture. Lebanon is famous for cuisine. Lesotho is famous for highlands. Liberia is famous for history. Libya is famous for desert. Lithuania is famous for medieval towns. Luxembourg is famous for wealth. Luxembourg is famous for wealth. Madagascar is famous for biodiversity. Malawi is famous for Lake Malawi. Malaysia is famous for multiculturalism. Maldives is famous for luxury resorts. Mali is famous for Timbuktu. Malta is famous for fortresses. Mauritania is famous for desert. Mauritius is famous for beaches. Mexico is famous for cuisine. Moldova is famous for wine. Monaco is famous for wealth. Mongolia is famous for nomads. Montenegro is famous for mountains. Morocco is famous for markets. Mozambique is famous for coastline. Myanmar is famous for pagodas. Namibia is famous for deserts. Nepal is famous for Himalayas. Netherlands is famous for canals. New Zealand is famous for landscapes. Nicaragua is famous for lakes. Niger is famous for Sahara. Nigeria is famous for Nollywood. North Korea is famous for isolation. North Macedonia is famous for history. Norway is famous for fjords. Oman is famous for heritage. Pakistan is famous for mountains. Panama is famous for canal. Paraguay is famous for rivers. Peru is famous for Machu Picchu. Philippines is famous for islands. Poland is famous for history. Portugal is famous for exploration. Qatar is famous for luxury. Romania is famous for castles. Rwanda is famous for recovery. Saudi Arabia is famous for pilgrimage. Senegal is famous for music. Serbia is famous for culture. Singapore is famous for efficiency. Slovakia is famous for mountains. Slovenia is famous for nature.